Okay, now when you're talking about spiritual practice, very quickly when we first start with spiritual practice, when we first start meditating, when we first start knowing some of the spiritual truths, very quickly it gets to our head. We start to think, oh my God, I've always known this. And yes, we know it with our heads. And I think, Les, I started? Yes. And we know it with our minds, but we really haven't understood it from deep, deep within. So I find this happens a lot. In fact, Sri Patanjali warns us of it. He said, this is a common mistake when you start spiritual practice. You think you've learned a little, and then you think you know it all. And then you become arrogant with it. And we become very judgmental with it. We think we are getting better. But normally on the early stages of spiritual practice, people actually get more judgmental. They say they're not judging, but they're looking down upon everybody as inferior to themselves because they have a little bit more knowledge. And this is so common. I've gone to so many yoga schools, met so many yoga teachers. I'm very grateful for them, having met so many with egos, that when I came on this path, it is the one thing I had to look at myself all the time. And this is how you keep it simple. The first practice on the road to spirituality, make it as simple as possible. Look at yourself. Learn from others. See what you like. See what you don't like. But keep it simple. The only person that really can change your life is you. So when you get the information and you watch where others make the mistakes, but don't think just because you've watched where the others have made the mistake, you're not going to make the same mistake. Because watching oneself is the most difficult thing to do. It is so hard to do. This is why meditation is so necessary. Because literally when you meditate, you watch you. You learn to separate the higher self from the mind and what we call the lower self. So the first step in spiritual practice is watch that ego. It can be inflated very quickly, and you can get very enthusiastic very, very quickly. Enthusiasm is not a bad thing, because with enthusiasm, you want to practice more, you want to become better, you want to be more spiritual. During my early days, knowing and watching other people getting carried away with their egos, it was a constant prayer that I had in my heart. Oh dear God, if I ever go wrong, if my ego ever becomes too big, please let me know. Now this was very easy while I was dealing with the world. I could watch myself. For me it was not difficult. Maybe because I had a great role model in my dad. He had everything and he had so many awards, and yet he was one of the most humble person I ever knew in my life. But at home it wasn't so easy. You see, we never really understand that the real practice is where you're living. And I realized that the greatest challenge was with my partner at home. Prior to yoga, I did everything with him, practiced everything with him. Yes, I didn't agree with him with lots of things, but I didn't have enough courage to say it. I was a little scared of him. Let's be truthful. Now, that is not a comfortable situation to be in. So when I came into yoga, I realized that was not normal. So I started to speak up for my belief system, okay? He started to disagree about my belief system. My attitude, instead of watching his attitude, seeing that he didn't agree, and agree that we just weren't going to agree, I took on the role as I know more than you. We're all spiritual people in this world. You don't have the knowledge, so I have more knowledge than you, so I have to be right. Do you see, the spiritual ego came in from such a deep level that I didn't even see it. Until my son, after a few years of practice, said to me, Mom, what's happened to you? What has happened to you? You think you know it all. And it took my son to put me into my place. And I saw it right away, you know. And I thought, what am I trying to prove? Also, the other thing that happened to me is, of course, I had such love for my spiritual master. And I wanted to be like him, which is great, which is the best thing to be. But we're all individuals. I needed to be like him, but I was not him. Do you see? I came from a different background, a different personality. So I started to adopt a behavior, almost trying to be a monk in my married life. And again, this is disaster because I was not being where I was. And the simple teaching is, be where you are now. You are here because you are meant to be. But at that time, I was so wrapped in the intelligence of spirituality, thinking I knew it all, that I could not see that where I was the perfect place that I was. There was nothing to change except to love it. But instead of loving it, I fought against it. Now, this took me a process of over 10 years, and I hope to save you all the time if you have this kind of process. But it did. It took my son to point it out to me. It took myself to really seriously work on myself. Why wasn't I getting the peace that I was talking about in those early days? You know, yes, I would have peace, but as soon as I walked home, there was no more peace. And I thought it was him who was taking away my peace. Wrong. It was him who was training me to accept all. And spiritual knowledge is really simply see things as they are, not from your point of view. Yes, of course you can have your point of view, which is where I needed to change, which is what I mentioned earlier on. Not to be frightened of anyone and to speak up for myself. That's fine. But the approach of how you do that should be yogic. It should not be judgmental. So if you know more than your friend or your partner, rather than say, you should do it this way and that way, and try to lecture them, because they won't hear you, guaranteed. 100% guaranteed they won't hear you. And the approach should be really simply by example. By example, and the example, keep your practice simple. The example should be loving. The example should be, if you can't deal with the situation, step back. If you don't agree with the situation, step forward and say what you think with love and explain it. So my learning it took me, like I said, 10 years to fine-tune it. It is really hard to develop discriminative discernment. It's not as easy as we think, because it's very easy to know it. Sri Patanjali tells us, by the practice of the 8 limbs of yoga, the impurities dwindle away, and there dawns the light of wisdom. So the wisdom comes to you and leads to discriminative discernment. What does that mean? The ability to make the right decisions at the right time. Now, in order to make the right decisions at the right time, to say the right things, you really have to be very much in the moment. And you really have to transcend a little bit what your opinion is. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about seeing things as they are. Now, this takes years of development. This is why Sri Patanjali also tells us that you have to practice for a long time without a break and with all your heart. Of course, when you start initially, you're very excited, you think you know it all, and you start to make some drastic decisions, thinking you know it all, and the grass is always greener on the other side, because now you're so spiritual that everybody else isn't. So you need to run away from your life in order to be happy. But the one thing you can't run away from is you. Our master used to say, I remember when I went first for my first teacher training, actually for 1 month at the ashram. Of course, the first 2 weeks was a piece of cake. You don't have to cook, you don't have to clean, you just study spiritual knowledge. Everything is cooked for you. I mean, no bills to pay for, no work. It's, whoa, this is just a wonderful life. I really love it. In my head, I was thinking, I don't really want to go home. I really don't want to go home. And my master called me. I was very lucky that he could always read my mind. And he gave me a call. He said, Nalanie, I'm taking you for a walk. It was a Sunday. So I said, sure. So I start walking with him, and we are walking through this forest, and he goes, Nalanie, where is God? And I go, God is everywhere. And then he goes, God is everywhere. Nalanie, you're stepping on God. It's like, picked my foot up. And he said, God is everywhere? Do you know, he was like trying to show me, yes, I knew it here. I didn't know it here. Because the moment he said, you're stepping on God, I've always been stepping on God. I've always been stepping on everything, and everything is God. I lifted my foot, so there was a separation. Whereas when he was saying it was a calm walk. So I really hadn't understood at that time. God was really everywhere. Then he said to me next, he said, don't you dare have ideas about staying here in the ashram. Your place is not here. Your place is out there in the world, and your place is with your husband and your children. So don't you think about having ideas of staying here. And I woke up. I just woke up. And of course, I saw the reality. Of course, it was a perfect situation. I'm very pleased to say, by 4 weeks, I was really looking forward to coming home. And that's, and I learned a great lesson, because when people sometimes have bad relationships or troubled times, I advise them now, don't run away so quickly. What you can do is take 4 weeks away. You might miss them by the 3rd or 4th week. I find 6 weeks is normally the place, but I was really missing. It was too peaceful there. There were no challenges. And so I came home. My purpose of telling this story is, we think spirituality has to appear a certain way. There's nothing to appear. It is. There is nothing to become. We are. There's nothing to pretend. Everything we need is given to us already. Spirituality is really just about being comfortable in our bodies with who we are, moment to moment. Because the moments pass very quickly. All we have is now. All the work we do with the meditation, with everything we do good, be good, serve, love, give, purify, everything we do is helping us just to learn to be in the moment, how to approach the moment, how to have discriminative discernment in the moment. Because this is all we know. So it takes a long time for the mind to be clear in the moment, because we have so many preconceived ideas about how we should look like or what people should think about us, that we don't know how to be anymore who we are truly. By keeping it simple, we can learn much about ourselves, and in that process, a lot about how we can react to the world. So how do you keep it simple? How do you keep it simple? I'd like to read to you something from the Mundaka Upanishad. As you know, the Upanishads are the highest teachings. This is a wonderful version. I always advise people to get it because it's very 21st century. And one can really understand it without, thank you, one can really understand it without too much trouble. It starts off with a prayer. All these Upanishads start up with a prayer. And Upanishad means up by the feet of a master or a teacher. In the olden days, all spiritual knowledge was given like this. There weren't many books, so everything had to be word of mouth. So the teacher passed it on to the student, and until eventually somebody recorded it from teacher to student, from student became a teacher, and that's how spiritual knowledge was passed on. So it always started with a prayer. And the prayer is this: may we hear only what is good for all. May we see only what is good for all. May we serve, Lord of love, all our life. May we be used to spread your peace on earth. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So very simply, as all the greatest masters say, in order to be in the moment, in order to be in spirit, one must be humble. That's where the service comes. One must be good. Master Shivananda used to use 2 words: do good, be good. They never said you can't say what you feel. They never said lie. They just said simply, do good, be good. So here it says, from the infinite Godhead came forth Brahma, first amongst the gods, from whom sprang the cosmos. Brahma gave the vision of the Godhead, the true source of wisdom that life demands, to his eldest son, Adava, who gave it to Angi, and then in turn it just goes through some Sanskrit names. Here what it's really saying is from the infinite, from everything, came Brahman. Brahman is the expression we call as God, or the Lord of Love. So it came from it, and it became matter into Brahman, all right? And then Brahman was the Godhead, and who was the true source of wisdom and life. And then he passed it on to his son and his son and his son. And then a great householder named Shonaka once came to Angiras and reverently asked, "What is that by knowing which all is known? What is that by knowing which is all known?" He replied, "The illumined sages say knowledge is twofold, higher and lower. The study of the Vedas, linguistics, rituals, astronomy, and all the arts can be called lower knowledge. The higher is that which leads to self-realization. The eye cannot see it. Mind cannot grasp it. The deathless self has neither caste nor race, neither eyes nor ears, nor hands nor feet. Sages say this self is infinite in the great and in the small, everlasting and changeless, the source of life." The self. Where is the self? In everything. In me, in you, in the floor. It's in everything. It never dies. It never dies. Try to imagine that. It's hard to imagine. We came from that self. As the web issues out of the spider, imagine a spider and how the web comes out of the spider and is withdrawn, as plants sprout from the earth, as hair grows from the body. Even so, the sages say, this universe springs from the deathless self, the source of life. This is what the Buddhas say, nothing. There is nothing. And this is where Les gave the talk. There is no such thing as nothing, because nothing with no thing can come out of nothing. So the self is something. So the wonderful descriptive word of the self is, anybody would like to try? What would you call the self?
Which self? Basically, I think we're a core, which is the same for everybody. We put layers of onion, which those layers are our identity ourselves, but they're all, we can just peel them off.
That's right.
What we do.
The self.
It's the same. It's,
The self.
the cause is the
Correct.
same for everybody.
So, yes. So the what the Upanishads describes it very beautifully as the Lord of Love. Because it gave of itself. It gave into us, right? So yeah. So the deathless self meditated upon himself and projected the universe as evolutionary energy. From this energy developed life, mind, the elements, and the world of karma, which is unchanged by cause and effect. So if you can imagine, it gave of itself, and it created, it gave of itself, and everything became. And then our life became cause and effect. So everything we do has an effect. The deathless self sees all, knows all. From him springs Brahma, who embodies the process of evolution into name and form, by which the one appears as many. The rituals and the sacrifices described in the Vedas deal with lower knowledge. The sages ignored these rituals and went in search of higher knowledge. Look at these rituals. When the fire is lit, pour butter into the fire. These were some of the rituals that they used to do in some of the ceremonies in the olden days and still do. Then place the offering between these two. These oblations will take the worshipper on the sun rays to the world of Brahma, where he can have his fill of enjoyment. He's saying here that these rituals are not bad. They will take you to the rays of the God. But such rituals are unsafe rafts for crossing the sea of samsara, of birth and death. Doomed to shipwreck are those who try to cross the sea of samsara on these poor rafts, ignorant of their ignorance, yet wise in their own esteem. These deluded men, proud of their vain learning, go round and round like the blind leading the blind. Living in darkness, immature, unaware, or of any higher good or goal, they fall again and again into the sea. But those who are pure in heart, who practice meditation, conquer the senses and passions, shall attain the immortal self, source of all light and life. So, action prompted by pleasure or profit cannot help anyone to cross the sea. Seek a teacher who has realized the self, to a student whose heart is full of love, who has conquered his senses and passions. The teacher will reveal the Lord of love. So here, really what it's saying is, we get so wrapped up in everything. We get so wrapped up in rituals. We get so wrapped up in astronomy. We get so wrapped up in astrology. We start to take all these things and we think we know it all by all this wisdom. It's saying, ultimately, where does it all lead you? These things are wonderful. These things exist in this world. They're for fun. But don't get so engrossed in them, because ultimately, what will lead you to your higher self is simply doing good, being good, looking for the highest in yourself, being the humblest in yourself, being the best you can. And these are safe. You can do as many rituals as you like. And why does he call them unsafe? Why does he say they're unsafe? So get you to the rays of Brahman, because like I mentioned earlier on, many times when people think, I know this ritual, or I know this puja, or I know this, or I can teach you and I can get you here by doing this ritual. What happens is, it's like you're still using something to get something else. You still have a desire. So you feel, I'm using this practice to get here. Now this can be very dangerous because it can cause addictions. For example, And you're not, I mean, it can cause addictions in always getting other people to help you get where you are. For example, many people who see psychics all the time, and that's fine, it's their choice. But then when it comes to making their own decisions, they're not able to do it. Or maybe they see a medium that gives them some information that may not be good for them, or maybe they shouldn't know. But the information is given to them at a time that is not appropriate for them and has caused so much disturbance in the mind. I've seen many of my students go through this. I remember 5 of them went to see this medium about a few years back. And this medium is a wonderful person. I have nothing against that person. But they told 5 of them something that hadn't happened and maybe would not even have ever happened, and said, this is going to happen in your life. So those students came to me upset and miserable, and I noticed a change in them, and I said, what has caused this upset in your mind? Oh, I went to see this person, and this person said that this is going to happen. How can you be so sure this is going to happen? In our Yoga Sutras, we say, whatever action you do today can change tomorrow's, right? Cause and effect. What makes you so sure that this is going to happen? Oh, because he said so. Anyway, so I asked the person, is it happening now? No, not that I know of. So he's telling you somebody's going to do something and it hasn't happened now. And you are disturbed today because of the future. Prior to seeing him, how did you feel? Peaceful. You saw him. What happened? You're not peaceful. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know. I'm not a psychic. All I know is that you've lost 1 week worrying about something that is not truth. It's not truthful now. Are you okay, Thomas? Yeah. And so, anyway, one of the people, well, all of them actually realized that none of it was based on truth, that the psychic that had seen it, he had huge emotional problems himself. So, of course, he was not bad. He was just reflecting his own problems onto their lives. And I am so glad that they took the back step and stopped seeing them, because each of those problems never occurred. Never occurred, especially in the time frame that one occurred many years later, but only because the person had a self-realization, nothing to do with the psychic. That person, when he told that person, she was not ready for that knowledge. So she spent 4 years suffering unnecessarily. Till in the end she decided what to do herself without seeing him. So one has to be very careful. Keep it humble, keep it simple. So, simple everyday practices. Keep it simple, keep it humble. If you find yourself asking for a lot, it's not simple and it's not humble. But it doesn't matter. We all have to go through different phases in our spiritual development. You find yourself asking a lot, it's probably you feel you have not understood that you already have everything you need. But it's a process. Sri Patanjali says it takes a long time. It's a process. So allow that process. I had an email from somebody abroad the other day telling me that, I've been in spiritual practice for 6 years now, and, I realized that I've done a lot of things in my past I'm not very happy about, that haven't been very nice. And I've just realized this after 6 years, and I don't know how to deal with it. I'm in a terrible place. I realize I'm not such a good person. And I told her, you're in the best place you can be. It's taken you 6 years to realize that what you've put out there in the past hasn't been too good. But isn't it great that you can now, for the future, not repeat those actions again? So you're really in the best place you can be. Prior to the 6 years, you thought you knew it all. Now you know. It suddenly hit you. And this is what meditation and understanding yourself brings to you. This is what it brings to you. And sometimes you see things that you wish you've done things that you never wish you had. But it's very late to change. But thank God you've come to a position that you can. So she goes, what should I do about all those people I have hurt in the past? And I said, very simple. Write them an email. So simple. What's stopping you? Pride, ego. Write them an email and just say, I've realized I behaved really badly in these situations. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Full stop. Nothing more you need to say. And I said, the only reason you wouldn't write it is because of your ego. You don't like to be wrong. So keep it humble. Be humble. So she wrote it. And I got back an email saying, oh my God, it's the most liberating experience in the world. Do you see, we think things are going to be difficult. But really, it's quite liberating to be so truthful. It's really very liberating because you're truthful and you're asking for forgiveness, so you're not carrying it anymore. I don't know if the person will forgive or not, but that's not the problem. You have done something wrong. It takes great humility to say, I'm sorry. But the great thing is, she came back feeling light. And she says, I feel so liberated. And you think, it's that simple. Spiritual study is that simple. Liberation is not a difficult thing. But we hold on to ideas, like I said, how we should appear and what we should do. But ultimately, everybody is so good inside because we all came from the same self. It gave of itself to us to experience it, the Lord of love. And how do we know this to be true? Again and again, when there's no love in our hearts, we're not happy. If there's no peace in our homes, we're not happy. That's how we know it to be true. When you're in anger, you're not at peace. When you dislike somebody, you're not at peace. You can dislike someone. That's fine. We can't love everybody in this world. Dislike is okay, but love everyone. Know their mind is sick, but you love them. It sets you free. Understand that you're not comfortable around some people. So stay away from them till you get strong. How many times people have told me in the years, oh, I go to parties and I get on a Saturday or Friday, and then on a Sunday or Saturday, I come home depressed, feeling bad. Why? Did you drink too much? No. Why? I don't know. I don't like the language, and the people were looking at each other and didn't feel comfortable about this person. I just didn't feel very comfortable there. I felt judged. Then why do you go again? Why do you go again?
I suppose we feel we have to prove something.
Correct. And then you make yourself ill to prove it. What? What for? You know this makes you feel so uncomfortable. Why go there? There's no need. We can say no. We can say no. And this for me was really liberating when I started my spiritual practice, actually, because I could never say no. And learning to say no very nicely was a great gift to me because it was liberating. I am not coming because I'm not a party person. Now I tell people I'm not a party person. Of course, there's some parties I love. I love when we all are in the same book because then everybody's happy. But there's some parties you go to and then people drink too much and then they get very aggressive. I don't like the energy. It's not that they're bad. I don't like the energy. I'm not judging them. I am seeing what I need, the way I need to live to make my life happy and peaceful. I don't want to go in there, judge everybody, come out more miserable than I went in. No, it's not for me to judge. That makes them happy. God bless them. May all be happy. I really believe that today. But it takes away my peace, so I'm not going there. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not that anybody's better or worse or good or bad. They could be having a better time than me. I don't know. There's a lovely story about these two friends, and they were they were both walking together, and one of the friends said, "Oh, tonight I'm going to the temple, I'm going to pray." And the other one said, "Oh, tonight I'm going to the disco and I'm going to dance." So they both went they went to their places. So the guy in the temple was sitting down in the temple, and he was thinking, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be here. Look at my friend. He's having so much fun. And all I'm doing is here. Am I really making a difference?" His friend at the disco was, "Oh, look, I'm around all these people, and it's the same thing again and again and again, and I'm bored with this. Maybe I should have gone with my friend to the temple. Maybe I need something with more meaning." At that moment, there's an earthquake, and they both die. And as they meet, the one that's going to the disco is full of love in his heart. And he's saying, "Oh, I want some spiritual knowledge." And the one that was in the temple was in a space, "Oh my God, I should have gone to the disco." We don't know. You see what I'm saying? It's what you think at the last moment. And you all know the story of the Swami and the prostitute. Yeah. It's one of my favorite stories. Do you know it? You don't know it? Okay, I'll tell it again. Do you mind me telling it again? And in this town lived a Swami on one side of the river and the prostitute on the other side of the river. And every day the Swami would look across the river and say, "Oh my God, this prostitute, these kind of people are no good for this world. Look what they are doing. This horrible woman, what is she doing with our world?" And she would look across every single day and say, "Oh God, I wish I wasn't a prostitute, but I have to feed my children. I don't know how to work any other way. Next life, please, please, please make me like this Swami." Anyway, they both happened to die. And as their souls were merging into the heavens, a great golden carriage comes and takes the prostitute away. And instead, this dark carriage comes for the priest, the monk. And he's saying, "No, you got it wrong. We need to swap. She needs the dark one and I need the golden carriage." And he goes, "No, we got it right. We don't get it wrong in heaven." So he takes him down back to earth. He takes the priest down there and he said, I'll show you the truth. So he goes to the prostitute's burial. She's thrown on the beach. All the birds are eating at her body. And he goes, "Look, she didn't look after her body on earth. So look, her body has a horrible funeral." Then he went to the priest's funeral. Hundreds of people, everybody singing and chanting in his name. And he goes, "You see, you looked after your body on earth. So look what a beautiful funeral you have." So the priest said, "You see, I told you." He goes, "No. Her mind, every day, there was a prayer. Make me good, make me kind, make me like this priest. Your mind, every day, was judging her. And the words in your mouth, your mind were all foul. So I guess now you no longer have the body, you're left with the mind. You have to go where your mind takes you. And she's no longer has the body. She's left with her mind, and that's where the mind is taking her on a golden chariot." So I love this story. When I was told this story many years ago, it really made me see life really very differently. It's not what we really do here, it's what we are thinking here. So keep the practice very simple and keep it very humble. This is where we all love St. Francis's prayer so much, because it was so beautifully humble and truthful. The whole thing was truthful. He understood. In that prayer is all that we need to just live a beautiful spiritual life. Really, we do no more than that. We can live and that's hard to do. We can live a most amazing spiritual life. So keep it simple. When you are sitting in your meditation room, and I hope you all have a little room that you have for yourself. Do you? Do you all have a little meditation corner in your home? Make one. It's really lovely. You put a little stool, a little candle, anything. And then you put a cushion. Take any corner in your house. And you will love it. It's your own place for peace and quiet. When you're sitting there, and the first thing you do when you sit down, watch your thoughts. Just watch what you're thinking. It will give you so much insight to what you need to do with your life. If it's full of thinking about other people, bring it back to yourself. Because you can't change anybody else. If you're full of anger with somebody else and they don't leave your mind, then what you do is just bless them and say, I'm willing to let you go. I need this time for me. Thank you, Shanti. I need this time for me. I'm willing to let you go. I'm willing to let you go. I am willing to let you go. I need this time for my growth. And you're sometimes so madly in love with somebody, they're always in your mind all the time. You also have to say, I'm willing to let you go for this time. I need this time to discover me. And then if the mind comes up with anything, you can change it. I'm just going to fill it with love. I'm going to fill it with nice thoughts. Think about anything to make you feel love and happy. It's really so simple to practice. And of course, the mantra, if you're used to using a mantra for a long time, it will take over all the thoughts. It just takes the thoughts over. You don't even have to think about changing your thought. For example, if you're repeating Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya all the time during the day, working, walking, moving, by the time you sit in meditation and the negative thoughts come, they won't have much space because Om Namah Shivaya is going to get louder than them. But this can only come with many, many years of practice or keen and intent practicing, all the time. That's why they say use of a mantra is so easy. And if you can't do any of it, take St. Francis's prayer.
Page 28.
And just read it.
28.
And just read it or sing it. You just sing it out loud. And that is the truth. Keep it simple, keep it humble. Ask when you are lost. Never be afraid to ask. I do some counseling with families, and this child, because the parents have been separated for so long, no longer feel so comfortable with one parent because there's not enough time spent with the other parent. So this child was saying to me that she loves the parent but doesn't feel so comfortable. I said, that's normal. You spend once every 2 weeks with the other parent. You're not going to be comfortable. So she said, that's the only reason why I don't want, to stay with this parent. Tell your parent. Tell them how you feel. What if they get angry? Do you want me to tell them for you and you sit next to me? So the first time we did that with the parent, and she actually said, I'm a bit scared of you. I'm scared that if I say that I don't want to spend time with you, I'll hurt you. The parent reacted really nicely and said, no, you won't hurt me. And then the next time she said, I really would like to do this. And this time she said it loud and clear. Really like to be with you. But I'd love to be with my friends. So can we choose a day that I'm not with my friends? And that was so hard. I had to talk to her for 20 minutes to make her tell her parent that. But when she did, she felt really good. And the parent felt really good. And they both gave each other a hug. I said, do you see? Truthfulness is not that hard. Why were you scared for so long? Just telling that truth and the parent reacting so beautifully gave the child a big hug, said, thanks for being honest. They already started to bond. They already started, you could see there was a bonding already. You see, when we're not saying our truth, there is always a distance. But when we learn to say our truth, and a lot of times we don't say our truth out of fear, but what are we frightened of? Isn't it worse to live like this, holding yourself back? Isn't it better to be so nicely truthful? And it can create lots of, beautiful things in your life. And truth is very simple. Truth is very simple if it's said with great love. And see, the fear was in her mind. And when she said it, she felt liberated. You could see it in the body. Her whole body shape from this became this. Fear makes us do this. Liberation makes us do that. And like I said, soon we'll all die. Really, it's not going to be that long. 20, 30 years. I don't know, 62, anytime, right? My husband died at 60. Anytime. We don't know. So we have to prepare ourselves. We have to prepare ourselves by living very well, as best as we can, looking after our body, looking after our minds, especially. When the mind is clear, the spirit comes of itself. The wisdom is already in you. You're already peace. Peace is our nature. So we just have to keep the mind very simple, okay? Keep it simple, not full of too many desires, because the desires will drive you crazy. This is why we said, I have to have this, I have to have this, I have to have that. So much have to haves. Gurudev said, I need, will blow your mind. Will blow it. Keep your needs simple. Keep your needs simple, simple, simple. Keep your eating habits simple. Keep your home simple. It can be pretty, it can be everything, but make it simple for yourself. Make it easy for yourself. And then you find life is so much more fun. So much more fun. And we are here to live because God wanted to know God in each of us. You heard it, I didn't say it. It's in everyone. We hear it all the time in all traditions. We hear it again and again. God is within us. God is within us. God is within us. We still don't believe it. And we insult the divine by living badly. So just live well. Don't insult the divine in you. Try and love all. And try and be as truthful as possible. It's really that simple. Do good, be good. And if you can't do good and be good because the environment doesn't allow you to, then you can walk away a little while till you get strong. And if you don't get strong, don't go in that environment. Know yourself. Know yourself, okay? And that is the greatest spiritual teaching. And be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. What else is there to do? And that's, again, keep it really simple. Keep it really simple. And you find the more simple the teaching, the happier you become. You read so much stuff. It's great. In the beginning, you have to learn. Because there's certain... It's a map. How to get to this, how to fix my mind, what practices. In the beginning, you do that. But once you've got the practices going, then keep the mind really playing. It's here that really counts. Remember the story about the prostitute and the monk. Remember the story about the two boys. What's in here at the end of the day is what you're eating. Like the other day, somebody was eating some food that's sugar, right? This happens to me a lot. And they're eating the cake or whatever they're eating, and they're going, oh my God, I really shouldn't be eating this. This is not good for me. And the tension and everything. And I go, if you're going to eat it, you better say it's good for you. Because what are you putting in? It's not good for me. It's not going to be good for you. You're going to eat it. Just eat it and say, ooh, this is so delicious. It's making my body so healthy. If you're going to say, it's not good for me, then don't eat it. Put it away and don't eat it. But don't put that food with that poison in your mind, because you turn the food into poison. Our master used to say, whenever you eat, be in a good mood. If you're not in a good mood, do not eat. He used to say, because you're putting poison into your own food with your bad thinking. So you're going to eat, This is why we pray before we eat. Make this a habit. If you're with people who don't like to do it, you can just gently put your hands together very quickly. I do that even when we go out to restaurants. I mean, Les and I always pray before every meal, but go to restaurants, we still do the same. We just do this quietly and say thank you. Because it keeps the mind in a really nice place. You're going to eat the food. You know now especially how water is affected by your thoughts, right? And how much water is in your body? 75 to 80%. Your body is made up of water.
How much is in the food?
How much is in the food? You tell me. You know, you're better than
Same
I am.
thing.
Yeah, same thing. No, yeah, he's very good. He works with natural products. So he works with moringa. You should ask him about it. It's a wonderful thing. So, but he's the expert. I'm not. So, yeah, so you're putting all this into your body. So remember, if you're going to eat it, love it. Say, wow, it's so delicious. My body loves it. Otherwise, don't. And this is pratyahara, the practice of self-control. But it's the mind. You see, it starts with the mind. And then when you do that, your body loves all these things that goes in, all the blessings you put into the food, you will receive. You will receive. This is the vibration of our food, and this is why everybody says your second brain is in your gut. You are what you eat. You are what you think, and your body is what you eat. So be aware of both. Love yourself. Keep it simple. Thank you very much.